Ooh, you could also market this as like
say the tagline.
A recruiting service for hang on. Hang on. Hang on.
Well, welcome back to this episode of Hang On with Nick and Blake. Now that's a good idea. Finally, we get to the heart of it.
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah.
Boom bam bam clickety clack. We're good.
On 5 that I want to bring out, and again, it's not really fleshed out yet, but I feel like it really has the workings of either a very solid business or at least, if nothing else, a cult. Okay. Like something
I like cults.
Yeah. This would be an interesting idea.
Okay. Hit me with it.
So a lot of people are coming out of college with debt.
Okay.
And a lot of businesses want people with experience.
Okay.
So to cover that gap, I want to start a company that does a thing. Let's say runs a factory for some reason, just so I can conceptualize it. And we hire people right out of college, and we don't pay them, but we essentially pay them and pay down their student loans. We let them live in like a dormitory type situation, and we pay for all their food and their lodging and what they need to survive. But you take away all the Amazon spending, all the I've just got a job, let me get a big TV, and we help pay their student loans down, and we give them a job, and we get them the 5 years experience. So right out of college, they have a job, they don't have any loans, and they're ready to like actually get a real job.
Okay. I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get it. I don't think anybody's signing up for this.
Really?
No.
Why not?
If you're going to spend 5 years getting experience and basically not getting paid, but your student loans being paid for.
Yeah, so you got to like work that out, right? Like some amount of money.
Why wouldn't you just join the military and then get paid pretty well?
True.
Like do like a college program like ROTC or whatever.
Yeah.
Get paid pretty well, get your college paid for free, and have experience. Even if you didn't do the officer thing.
Yeah.
Even if you just went enlisted and then got like the GI Bill.
Yep.
You would still have gotten experience and gotten paid.
Well,
and now you're a veteran, and if you had sleep apnea, you're a disabled veteran.
Do you think that people would rather have the autonomy of, look, I just work like 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, or is joining the military really that much better where you have to follow a chain of command?
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. If in your thing, your idea was, hey, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to pay people like minimum wage.
Yeah.
And give them like a place to live and stuff like that, and give them experience. Then I think, and pay down their student loans. Then I think you might have some people sign up. But the idea of just not paying them anything and they live like.
Yeah.
It could also be kind of interesting because people struggle sometimes when they get out of college.
And they want to like move away from their parents. But what company
they also
is going to put you up in a house?
They struggle because they have been in this experience in college, when like high school and all growing up in college, where they always had friends around, and now they're in the real world and they don't just live with their best friends. Yeah. So like maybe even if you just skipped the job part and you just provided people some sort of like very low cost, like hostel type communal living, like dorm room type living, and you could rent. Like that doesn't really exist, especially in.
How could you do it just for people leaving college, though?
I mean, you could.
Like, what's the difference between that and like a low-income neighborhood, of like or like mobile homes that are stacked on top of each other?
If you had it as some sort of like club or some sort of thing or whatever, and you could be, selective and like have people apply, and then.
I haven't done renting before, but if you rent, you're allowed to pick people, right?
True, but you can't discriminate based off of anything. So okay. I don't really necessarily know how they pick, because
I picked this person because he makes more.
Yeah, to pick you have to discriminate against someone.
Yeah, for some reason.
I do like the idea. I think it would work best if you got partnerships with businesses, and then you provided the housing, transportation, maybe continuing education or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like an all-inclusive the company paid you for their housing and stuff like that, and you paid down their, you handled their student loan type things, and then you gave them some sort of stipend for, and at this place where they're living, there's a cafeteria with 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
They have like a roommate, maybe a couple of roommates in their little dorm room type thing. Transportation is provided to and from the workplaces where they're working. I think something like that could actually go over well.
So let's say it's
It
college.
would have to be cool. It would have to be. It would have to be something that people like looked forward to doing. Maybe even in like summertime, so like Christmas vacations, or like where like you guys had like, or on weekends you guys had like group outings. Or
that's sort of what I was like homing in on, where the crux of it is we're going to pay down your student loans to get you a
it's
job.
like instead of having a retirement community, it's like a fresh out of college community.
It's a college 2.0.
Because that's actually, I don't know, I haven't really looked for this that much, but from what I can tell, I mean, I've rented a lot of, apartments for the last 11 years of my life. There's nothing that you can get that's like nice, where you can like live with other people. It's kind of a crapshoot when you're renting. So if you had like a nice building, an old hotel, or something
that
like
would be
that,
cool. Yeah,
and people could rent out basically just half of a hotel room or like a dorm room type thing for really cheap in an area where there's a lot of jobs. Like I'm picturing this in larger cities. Like a Manhattan, or where it's really, really expensive to live, but people would want to live there. And there's a lot of people hiring, looking for employees. And I really think that could be, and you could have like counselors there and like financial counselors there, and
people to help you get started.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I didn't want to pay people isn't necessarily so that I get all their money, although I think the business does need to make some sort of
so they get their
somewhere.
student loans paid off.
Yeah.
But I totally got that.
Okay.
But people are not going to sign up if they have zero freedom. Because
they'll have full freedom, right? And I think
they would have to have money to be able to do it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, I think where you have
one of the things I think about is everybody working for the same company. Maybe at first you hire like all computer technicians, right?
Yeah, you'd have to pick some profession to start with.
Yeah. And have a few experts on hand.
You could also market this. You could also market this as
say the tagline.
A recruiting service for. Hang on. Hang on. So you can market this as a recruiting service for businesses, right?
There you go. We grade people.
Yeah. So you could say,
real life performance.
No, I'm saying even like for hiring, like a business comes to you. So you have this hotel, hostel type thing where people are living. There's meals and like transportation's included. Everything's kind of included. And you have a business and they're like, hey, I need 5 software engineers. Mm-hmm. And now you say, okay, I'm going to provide you with 5 highly qualified graduates, software engineers. I'm going to provide them transportation. They're going to have a place to live. They're like, everything's going to be included, and they're going to come work for you. So you could also be a headhunter / recruiting operation for the businesses.
Useful. Yeah, I think like not like a guidance counselor, but if you think about this as college 2.0, what is the college's incentive to get you a job? And
none. They already have your money. Yeah. But if I'm a business and I'm like, I could hire this random person who just got out of college who has no help structure here. He doesn't know, he or she doesn't know anyone here. They don't have any family here. They're going to have to be like paying their own rent. Or I could hire someone through this place who's going to set them up, hook them up, really help them out, help them get on their feet. And I'm probably going to go with the second option because I know that they're going to show up to work and like they're going to...
And they're part of this institute. And maybe the institute guarantees like, hey, if this guy doesn't work out, we have another one.
Like I said, like the continuing education /
help people get a master's degree.
Networking as well. Like you could have, business leaders or leaders in the fields that come by and talk to people or give speeches or whatever the case may be.
If you had a hotel, each floor had like a different profession.
Yeah. Well, and just even the people that you would meet there at the hotel, or the hostel or whatever you want to call it, you'd network with them and you'd meet so many people who later on you could kind of call and say, hey, remember me?
which really helps when you have like communal dining and communal projects.
I think that could be really cool.
I also thought about it for like contracting in a sense of, hey, we need 10 engineers working on a project, and the company that owns the dormitory goes out and says, all right, your job while you work here and getting your master's is, hey, we have this contract to work on this. So you have like an experience for all different contracts that the company picks up.
I think the way you'd have to start it would be just with one company and one profession, and then just get that on a smaller scale, get that started, and then kind of go from there.
Maybe you could do like a union for like let's say chemical engineer, for example, a union of chemical engineers that in their progression, like everybody says you got to go to the post-college thing so that you can get like a handle on like what real chemical engineers are going to do. Maybe you get your professional engineering license while you're there, and then BP comes and they're like, hey, we know your program. We need 2 from the diesel division, 2 from the crude oil division, something like that.
Yeah. And I think if you offered in this community, whatever you want to call it, counseling for resume writing, like people, like the incentive of this company or this community was for you to stay there, get some experience, and then within a year to 3 year time frame, go out and get a much better job than you would if you didn't go through that community.
Like
you could sell it as like, hey, our graduates or our alumni or our members on average make 30% more than people who don't go through our thing.
Yeah. I don't even think you'd need that many people. If you can get like an old dormitory and throw like a dozen people in and have them be hardworking, have them interview for it, they have the job, they have lodging, like they move in a week, and within a year or 2 you get them a job.
Yeah, and like I said, I think part of it has to be fun and exciting. Have a bar in the dorm, with...
If it's post college, especially, most everyone's going to be 21.
Yeah, have a bar in the dorm. Go on weekend trips. Go on
have a library,
events.
Video game things.
Yeah,
do archery tournaments. Everything you would ever want.
Yeah,
like we're just at this point. Go see the episode where we have the dating thing.
Yeah.
All of those ideas.
So what if you just skipped the job placement thing and the job thing, and you just opened up a dormitory for young adults straight out of college?
I think
like it had nothing to do with you. You're in Manhattan. You get like a apartment building with 15 rooms, and you set them up with like bunk beds, and it's it's
health
like
insurance.
It's dorm living. But yeah, it's like instead of a retirement community, it's a young professional community.
Ooh, young professional makes it sound good. Like there's a tailor at the very bottom.
I mean, yeah, like that could be a thing. Like maybe you have like people who like ends with.
Do you see everyone wearing uniforms?
No.
Okay.
But like maybe you have an inn with people like a salon or a barber, and an inn with like a tailor, or like a suit, where you can get some suits made for like pretty cheap, or like, but so where you can go and you can live for relatively cheap, still have fun, but live for cheap and get on your feet and get started in whatever profession you're trying to get started in.
I think that'd be fantastic for people, one, who just want to meet new friends and they stay there for a couple years and get married. And then you have people that really like the professional aspect that can live there for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, you could even almost like, for like entrepreneur type people, like it could be like a business incubator type thing. Like people are like, hey, I'm going to go here, I'm going to work in this job, but I'm going to meet people who are really into the things that I want to do, and meet people who I might want to start a business with, or I might want to, whatever the case may be. I think that's actually a really good idea. I don't know exactly how
you would start it.
Yeah, I think you just skip the job placement thing.
Okay.
And I think you just make it a
dormitory first.
Make it like an adult young professional fraternity, sorority, dorm room kind of thing.
I just don't know the logistics of like, I have a dozen rooms. How do I sell it to people that only have a college degree and they're right out of college? And
I don't know, how do retirement communities only rent to people who are like retired and old people?
I think the
You know what I'm
scale tends towards younger people. Like if you were 30, you would rather room with a 20-year-old than a 40-year-old. A 40-year-old.
No,
would
no, I'm
rather-
just saying, like, how do they get away with that? Like, I'm sure, I'm almost positive that there would be a legal way to do this. I just
Yeah.
don't know the legalities of it, but I'm almost positive that there would be and key things you have to do. Transportation, I think, would be cool.
One of the reasons I like the company aspect of it is you then have buying power. You essentially have a dozen college graduates who.
What I'm saying is, I think you could possibly do that later.
Yeah.
I think you just start with the young professional community first, and then you could morph that into, hey, companies, I have all this young talent. Let me
Job
send
fair.
you some.
Yeah, just come down for the job fair.
Yeah.
Then we get to know companies and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going
Yeah,
to
the
take
young professional community. I like that.
I'm going to take the idea and I'm going to morph it a little bit. I'm going to get
Oh,
rid
hang
of
on, stop. Hang on.
Yeah.
Are you about to tell me about doing this with storage containers?
No.
I'm in.
I feel like a lot of people go to college, but they don't actually need to go to college. They end up going, getting a degree, and then doing something else. And there's a big need for trade schools and people who do trades around the house. So I'm thinking same concept where right out of high school, we have a company. Now you don't have the money, but we're going to put you in lodging, get you out of your parents' house once you're 18. We're going to train you to be a plumber, and day one, we're going to have an experienced plumber that you're going to go with. That's your job. Like, you don't have to do it forever, but for the 3
So
or
you're
4
talking about like an apprenticeship programs.
where it's like an all-inclusive apprenticeship program.
No, I mean, I still just don't know why people wouldn't join the military for that.
Because you get your weekends off.
Sure, but in the military, I'm going to get trained in something, going to get college paid for. I'm going to get paid way more than I am in this.
That's true.
I just don't think you're going to, I think it's going to be a hard sell in today's time to tell some 18-year-old kid, like, hey, you can come do this thing where I'll give you a dorm room and I'll give you
College experience.
College experience. You're going to be working every day instead of going to school, but I'm not going to pay you.
Well, not going to pay you as much. Like, exactly how much you get paid, you probably can't compete with the government at all. You could develop skills, and you would put right on the job right away, and some people really like that idea.
No, I definitely understand. I just feel like when you get to the business thing, I feel like the way that works best is if you own a business. Like, hey, I own a HVAC business, and I am always needing new technicians. So I'm just going to start this thing where, have some apartments in the back of the site, and I hire young kids out of high school, and they work for pretty cheap, but they live for free, and like I provide them meals or something like that. When you try to do it as like a middleman, I feel like it gets kind of, I don't want to say wonky. So you're basically saying like a college that is an apprenticeship college.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that some people that go to college and they like live at home and they're commuting to try and get their job, that's frustrating.
And I think apprenticeship programs are a thing that we've gone away from that are great.
I agree.
They're great assets, and we should try to go more towards. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find the number of businesses that wanted apprentices like that to really make it worthwhile.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I like the company is you're basically telling the business, hey, this guy's just going to work for you. He's going to work for you for free. We'll pay him under this contract. That's a high incentive for somebody to have free labor. Then the company pays for him and gets it on the end of this is, once you make it, there's some contract of like paying back like a student loan.
No, yeah, I totally understand. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that will exist, but unless you're trying to keep the small to like 10 or 15 people at a time, I don't think you can really go any bigger than that. That's what I'm saying.
Ooh, what do you think about like a mechanic's garage?
So that kind of already exists. There's a lot of technical schools like the ITT Tech and the like other ones where basically it's a school. All the major auto manufacturers and stuff have kind of bought in and said, hey, we'll hire your graduates and we'll kind of pay for their school out of their first couple years paycheck. So that kind of already exists.
Yeah. Now, would you go to a trade school that changed you out every 6 months? Like you would get basic plumber for 6 months, basic HVAC for 6 months, and then at the end, or when you liked something, you could stop.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a sham that we tell 18-year-old kids that, like, hey, when you graduate high school, you should go to college, pick a major that you have no experience working in, and then spend $100,000 plus on getting a degree, and then figure out if you like it or not after you've spent all this money and time.
Exactly.
I 100% have had any advice for like 18-year-old kids right now, unless you're one, really good at sports or music or something where some college is going to pay for you to come and go to school there for free. Your parents are filthy rich and loaded, and it doesn't matter if you spend $200,000 on something you don't want to do anyway. Or 3, you've been working every summer in a veterinarian's office or insert random profession, and you 100% that this is what you want to do. If you're just some kid and you're like, I got to go to college because that's what people do when they graduate high school, just don't. Just take 6 months, a year off, travel a little bit, work, do some paid or unpaid internships, and really kind of like decide what you want to do before you go spend $200,000 on a degree to do that thing. I think people would be way better off. I understand that.
Maybe that's what the business idea should be, where we take people for that gap year.
Yeah.
And we have a dozen options with a dozen companies.
Now that's a good idea.
We got it. Now, it took forever.
That's your line, but now that's a good. So you graduate high school, you pay some amount of money, but not a ton of money.
Right.
You come to you get put up in a dorm.
Yep.
You get food, you meet a bunch of different people, and you get to see for like 6 months or 3 months or whatever, you get to go and see all different kinds of businesses, and people from businesses come in and talk to these people or whatever the case may be, and you can maybe do some traveling. This wouldn't be for like your lower middle class, like this would be for people who are maybe like, they have money. They don't have like a ton of money.
Since we're marketing to that, I really like the idea of having multiple campuses. Like you go to Seattle, right? Yeah. You intern with Amazon. You go to New York, you do like a big law firm or something. You go down to Florida, and you take a week.
Well, I guess the thing with that is like the idea is that you can see like multiple different things.
Yeah. And different areas in the U.S. where you might want to work.
Yeah.
And then think about...
so maybe you're doing you do a week in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then you do a week in Florida, and then you do a week in St. Louis, and then a week in Seattle, and a week in L.A., and, you get to travel. It's like you get to travel, you get to see new places, you get to do some internships and learn some cool stuff. You spend... Maybe even it doesn't even have to be after you graduate.
Maybe like a
high
summer,
school, like the summer between your junior and senior year or something like that.
I think a lot of people would sign up for that.
Yeah, like, hey, come travel with. Issue there is now you're talking like kids that are like
maybe not 18 yet.
Yeah, maybe not 18. So I feel like that kind of buys you into
a lot.
Yeah, a lot
of
more
chaperoning and
so maybe if you just did it like, hey, summer after
senior year.
That's right. They're already accepted to a school, but maybe they haven't picked a major yet. Yeah. They want to go do like a fun thing for summer, and then so they spend a month out of their summer, a week in 4 different locations in the U.S. doing like not really strenuous work, but like 4 or 5 hours a day doing kind of internship learning. I think people would pay for that.
I mean, if you were a parent and you were risking $100,000
I was like,
plus dollars,
I could spend $10,000 on this thing
and guarantee
have the house to myself for a month.
Yeah,
and they would get to travel, get a great experience, meet some great people, make some connections,
right?
And kind of get an idea of maybe something that they would like to do, like for their major. I I'm not saying I would jump at that, but I would definitely.
Thank you for listening to our show. To participate, send your comments or business ideas to thehangonpodcast@gmail.com. Keep us motivated by subscribing to us on YouTube and iTunes. And tell a friend. This is the Hang On Podcast. It was an honor. See you next week.